Hello, everybody. Happy Wednesday. We are getting started on time today because there is a lot that we have to talk about. As you may have seen, the topic of today's video is a highly requested one, a commonly asked one of the most commonly asked questions I would say that I receive, which is a question that comes from health professionals who are interested in medical writing, but specifically health writing when it comes to the type of writing that I do, who are interested in getting in the field, but feel like they don't have any actual experience. And so I actually took a poll probably a couple of months ago at this point. I took a poll of my LinkedIn network, and as a person who feels like more health professionals should be in health writing, health communications, I wanted to know what other health professionals thought were some barriers that prevent them or their colleagues or other health professionals they know from entering the field of health communications and health writing. And the answers were very interesting. I think out of about 19 to 20 responses, the majority of them cited lack of awareness as a barrier preventing health professionals from getting into health writing, and an equivalent amount cited lack of experience as a barrier that prevents health professionals from getting into health writing. And so I determined that in my efforts to help more health professionals get into this space, I wanted to help address both of those things. I wanted to help address the lack of awareness, which is why you've seen so many videos and so much more content specifically about health writing coming from me and coming from Stock Rose. But I also wanted to figure out a way to address that lack of experience, because I don't believe that that is something that is insurmountable. That's not something that can't be overcome, that can't be fixed. And so that's what today is about in part. Today, I want to talk about how health professionals can get into health writing with no experience. So if you have been hanging around this account or Stock Rose, my health content marketing company, for long enough, you know that with Stock Rose, my specific brand of medical writing or health writing is health content marketing. And so today's conversation is going to come from that perspective. If you are interested in more formal medical writing, more medical writing opportunities that are geared towards physicians or other health professionals, some aspects of this conversation may apply to you, but some might not. And so you might get more tailored responses to that particular interest elsewhere. But today is specifically going to be dedicated to people who are interested in health writing in particular, for the general public, especially health content marketing, and how you can get into that field without any experience. So, hi, Patricia. Thank you so much for joining in. And by the way, if you happen to pop in during the live video or on the replay, you can feel free to leave a comment, ask a question. If you're not watching live, I'll see the comments and questions later, so we can definitely follow up then. So don't hesitate to leave a comment or a question if you have one. So let's go ahead and get into the meat of this. I want to start by just answering the question, right? Like, what is the actual answer to the question of how do I get into health writing as a health professional if I don't have any experience? The true answer is you got to get some experience. Okay, so I wanted to answer that up front because that is going to help frame the rest of today's conversation for you. We're going to be talking specifically about how you can get that experience. Now, I want to take a step backward. And I want to actually challenge the idea that you don't have experience. Okay, there are different types of experience that we could be talking about. So maybe it is the case that you have never written anything for a publication, for a consumer-facing publication, or you've never written a blog post for a health company. And so in that sense, sure, you might not have that experience. But I would argue that as a health professional, particularly if you are a pharmacist, if you are a nurse, if you're a physician, if you are a PA, as a health professional, you do have some type of experience. Now, this might be indirect experience, right? You might have experience communicating information verbally with a patient or with their caregiver. You might have experience like with the more scientific aspect of medical writing, and maybe you just don't have the writing piece of that. So you have like half of the puzzle and you don't have the other half. That half that you have still should count for you as experience. You shouldn't feel like, man, I'm just totally unqualified to be in health writing because I don't know anything about writing for consumers. Well, that might be the case, but that is something that you can learn. You have half of that knowledge already because you are a health professional. And so you've had the didactic training, you've had the experiential training, you've practiced in that space, and that qualifies you in a way. So I want to be very specific when you're talking about not having experience. I want you to think about the experience that you do have, and then think about the experience that is maybe lacking right now. And so how can we fill that gap? How can you get more direct experience that applies to writing? Let me know in the comments, whether you're watching live on the replay, if that makes sense. And if we can get behind the idea that as a health professional, you automatically have a base level of experience in half of the puzzle, and that what you need is to fill in the rest of the puzzle. Okay, so let's then dive into what direct experience is going to mean for you in this case, if you are trying to get into medical writing. So what you really need, and we've mentioned this before in previous videos, but what you are really going to need. Okay, I'm on my hotspot. Sorry, my Wi-Fi just started acting crazy and I wanted to make sure that I had logged into my hotspot like I thought I had. What you are going to really need to demonstrate that experience is a portfolio. Okay, a portfolio is a collection of samples. It doesn't need to be like 50 samples, but it's a collection of samples of your work that you can show to a prospective client to validate your experience and your skill, to say that, hey, I'm not just saying that I'm a health writer, I actually am a health writer. So really the question is, how do you begin to build your portfolio if you don't necessarily have an open and available opportunity to do so? This is where we start to have to get a little bit more innovative in how you get that experience, how you get those opportunities to write. So the first opportunity the first thing that you might need to do is you might need to learn how to write. I attended a pharmacy school where there were not a whole lot of courses that were dedicated to actually writing. The writing that we did might have been in a journal club, or if you happen to be doing like research with a professor, or you happen to be doing some type of extracurricular activity where writing was involved. I have taught at an institution where there was a whole set of courses that was dedicated to writing and learning how to write as a health student and a health professional. So you might have a variety of experience with actual training and writing. And even if you have experience with scientific writing, it might not be from a consumer perspective. It's a lot different to be writing for a health professional than it is to write for someone in the general public, and to be able to explain yourself clearly and succinctly while still getting the accurate point across and still being engaging. There's a lot of things that go into that. And so if you feel like you don't have that real skill in writing, then you might need to start with learning how to write. Now, if you are a reader and you like to kind of absorb information that way, there is a book called On Writing Well by William Zinsser, Zinsser, that is really highly rated. A lot of people think it is helpful in learning like how to use the English language really well and really efficiently. So that is one option for you. But in my opinion, the best way to actually learn how to write is to start writing and to keep writing and keep practicing, getting feedback and getting better over time. So I would encourage you, even if you do say, hey, I really just do not feel comfortable writing, I think that I need some help there. Maybe I need to find a book or a course or something. Sure, that's helpful. But you're not going to make significant improvement until you start actually getting out there and writing. So that brings me to my second point, which is one of the ways that you can actually start jumping into the practice of health writing and getting experience with health writing, which is taking advantage of opportunities at your workplace. A lot of workplaces, whether you work in a hospital or a community pharmacy or an ambulatory care center, wherever you work, you may be in a position where your company has a newsletter or they have a website, or there are opportunities to create patient handouts or patient information. Maybe there are workshops that your company puts on for the general public. Maybe there are trainings, information sessions. A lot of times those workshops, trainings, information sessions involve written materials that you can provide to the people who are in attendance. Those are all opportunities for you to raise your hand and say, hey, I would love to contribute something for this workshop, for this training, or to the newsletter, or I would love to create a blog post on our company website that is geared towards, this group of patients that we serve very often. I would encourage you to look around your employer and figure out if there are opportunities for you to get practice with writing for the general public through your employer. That'll also gain you brownie points with your employer, right? Because you're kind of going outside of your job as a clinician or, as some type of health professional, health provider, and you're actually like providing information to the patients that your company serves. So that's one option. The third option is to go outside of the workplace and look for opportunities there. So maybe you are in a professional society like APHA, big H or little h, American Pharmacists Association or American Public Health Association, or maybe you are active on Doximity, or maybe you're active on LinkedIn, where we are right now, unless you're watching on YouTube. There's also, trade publications or publications that are specific to your profession. So for pharmacists, for example, there's Pharmacy Today. These are all opportunities for you to be able to create materials that are patient facing so that you can say, hey, I actually do have practice in this. And then again, you don't stop there. You continue to practice and to publish so that you can get better and you can improve. The last option, which personally is my favorite, is to get creative and to self-publish. So if you just have, your employer does not offer these opportunities, you cannot find these opportunities in any professional societies that you're a part of or any other extra workplace areas that you may be active in, no community groups, if you are religiously affiliated, no church groups, if you just can't find anywhere to get your feet wet and begin publishing for consumers, my favorite option is just to get creative and to self-publish. So if you are a health professional, I'm sure you are constantly bombarded by questions or problems that come up for your patients, and you have to provide answers for them. And so having experience providing those answers, a lot of times what happens, at least what happened for me, is I wish I could go into much more detail with this person about what they really need to know. I can answer their question directly, but there's also so much background context that they need to understand to really benefit from what I'm telling them that I can't cover in a 2-minute conversation at the pharmacy counter or at the nurse's station. And so this not only gives you an opportunity to more fully answer people's questions about their healthcare, but it gives you an opportunity to create your own space for creating health materials and getting those published. So some people, what they choose is to create their own blog. And that's a little more tech heavy because there is a little more grunt work in getting a website host, setting up a website, formatting, designing, all of these things. That is one option if you just are really convicted about doing that. But also there's the option to publish on LinkedIn or publish on Facebook. There are other ways that you can publish your content and just create your own topics, essentially. But the patients that you work with or that you interact with, they can inform the topics that you are writing about, and that'll give you ideas about what to write about, and then you just go create it. And then right there, you have a sample. You have something that can be a part of your portfolio that you can show to a prospective client and say, hey, this is actually something that I have experience in and that I do pretty well. Here is an example of what I can create and what I can do for your company. The most important thing is to practice. in terms of getting the experience, building the portfolio, getting the direct experience and building the portfolio, the most important thing you can do, the most significant thing you can do to move the needle is to start writing and to practice. Darren, yes, you were able to publish on Pharmacists Connect, which is a great resource. Thank you for reminding me about that. That is a great resource. They are often looking for pharmacists who are part of that community to publish blog posts about things they're interested in. I had the opportunity to write a really cool article about podcasts that are hosted by Black women that, a lot of pharmacists might not be aware of, but should. And that was a really cool opportunity in there. And I'm glad you got that opportunity as well. So there are definitely ways to begin practicing and to get better, for you to get more comfortable personally with your ability to write, and then also for you to create samples that you can show others. Chloe, I'm just reading through your comment. Curious about how to go about finding opportunities with potential clients through other avenues besides your own website and guest blog posts. Absolutely. So I'm glad that you at least started with those, because those are avenues that I don't think a whole lot of people take advantage of. So it's really great to hear that you started with those. I think later in the conversation, you may hear some ways later in this conversation, but then also in future videos. So I do these videos every Wednesday at 5:45. We'll be covering some other ways that you can kind of get a footprint started in health writing that are more direct with clients, So these options are going to help you accomplish the goal of having some written communications to show prospective clients, right? That is an excellent starting point. Now, I should mention that a caveat with these options is that they don't necessarily help you learn the strategy of specifically health content marketing in a way that is going to be most desirable for health companies, right? So it's one thing to get your own practice with health writing and get more comfortable with it. And it's another thing to get to a point where you are able to lead health writing efforts through health content marketing for an actual health company. So that is kind of the next step, right? After you have started the process of getting your feet wet through these different avenues, 1 through 4 that we talked about, then you have to start thinking about if this is something that I am actually trying to make a part of my professional career, right? I think I've talked in previous videos, my mission with Stock Rose is to fight health misinformation online. The way that I do that through Stock Rose is by developing culturally relevant content strategies and creating content for innovative health companies. Okay, so if you are in a position where you also want to actually work with health companies to help fight health misinformation online, then once you get to the point of being comfortable with health writing, you then have to close the gap of, okay, how do I get from being comfortable, being a beginner with health writing, to being able to actually help create content for or develop strategy for innovative health companies so that I can actually help on a larger scale to fight health misinformation by creating content that is accurate, but also engaging as a health writer. Does that make sense? So over the past few months, I've kind of been reflecting on the process that I had to go through in order to bridge that gap. Because when you are doing something for yourself, it can be difficult to say, how did I learn how to do this? I know that I didn't always have this skill, but 2 years ago, where was I? And then what were the steps that I took to get from that point to the point where I am now with Stock Rose being able to do this for health companies? And so I'm in the process, I've been in this process for about a month of building out a program that gives health professionals that step-by-step process to get from point A of, being interested in health writing with no experience to point B, which is being able to be a health writer for health companies and to help them fight misinformation online. So I kind of think about it as if I were a health student again, right? If I were a pharmacy student again, and what were the components of pharmacy school that prepared me to be a pharmacist, right? So you had your didactic education where you are in class and you are learning the things, you're taking notes, you're taking tests, you are getting the knowledge, and you are cementing, hopefully, that knowledge in your mind. Then the other portion is your experiential portion, right? Not just your labs, but actually going out and doing your rotations at clinics, at hospitals, and then hopefully after graduation, if you are interested in practicing, doing a residency, whether that's in a hospital or community setting, you're getting that experiential practice that you need to be able to apply what you learned from a didactic perspective. And then you also have the third piece, which is mentorship. So you have preceptors, you have program directors, you have professors who are all there to help you from a mentor perspective, learn some of the things that you're not necessarily going to get in the classroom and that you're not necessarily going to get when you're working directly with patients. So coaching you from a more professional development perspective. And that is a very similar experience to how I was able to move from like a person who was kind of in the medical information, health communication side of things to actually doing the health content writing and health content marketing for actual health companies. So the reason that I kind of gave that full explanation was that if you are looking to like get started on your own, dabble in health writing a little bit, see if it's something you're interested in, then the steps that we talked about today are an excellent way for you to get into that, into the practice of it. If you are looking to move forward with this as an actual component of your professional career, as an income stream, as a way for you to personally help fight health misinformation online, then that is going to take a little extra work because you are going to need that didactic piece, that experiential piece, and that mentorship piece. So this is just what I'm thinking as I've been developing this program over the past month. And, you know, if that's something that might be interesting to you, I would love to have a chat further about it. Again, there will be plenty of videos in the future where we can talk more about it and kind of dive into the details. But you can feel free to send me a message or leave a comment if you'd like. If that's something that you think you would want to be a part of your professional trajectory and your professional career. And if not, if this is something that you just kind of want to dabble in a little bit and get a little bit of experience, then the 4 steps we talked about earlier are going to be perfect for you. You know, start with learning how to write. Then go to taking advantage of opportunities, writing opportunities at your workplace and then beyond your workplace. And if all else fails, or if you're just interested in getting creative and doing it yourself, then self-publishing is always an option. So again, if you are watching this live or if you are watching this on the replay, you can feel free to leave comments. I will get back to you. I will answer them. If you are looking for more specific guidance, whether didactic, experiential, mentoring, then you can feel free to shoot me a DM and we can talk a little bit more about that. We will again cover that also in future videos. And remember that these happen on Wednesdays at 5:45 p.m. Eastern Time. If there are ever topics that you want to learn more about that are specific to health writing, consumer-facing health writing, or health content marketing, then I am your girl. You can just leave them in the comments, shoot me a message for those as well, and I will work on getting that information to you. So I hope y'all have a good night. Thank you for tuning in.